Raising your vibe. So what in the world does this mean, and why do we care? So it's a state of being, and it's the energetic quality of who you are, what a thing might be. So there is a vibrational level to everything. And Albert Einstein told us this: everything in life is vibration, and that's all there is to it. The chair you're sitting on, the mic I'm holding, it's all vibration. So why is this important? And Paul already alluded to this. We aren't the only ones to come up with the 1% effect. And why this is exciting to me is because we're just one little tiny organization, very tiny. We have a staff of less than 30. And we have this goal. But there are other organizations who have this goal. So together, we will reach a tipping point. And hopefully it's before 10 years or 9 years that we do this. So what's in this for you? Why do you need to care about raising your vibration? So really, it's about an ease with yourself, an ease with life, joyful living versus situational happiness. So that's why it should be important to you as an individual. And if you're doing something else, none of you in here are doing this, right? You are down or even depressed more than not. You're lacking clarity, and we can all drop down to these lower vibrations, which you're going to learn as we go through this. And you feel there's a heaviness. Hard to get out of bed, right? Hard to go somewhere, do something. And most of the decisions are based on fear because we're looking at life through a different lens from a different space. So what part do you play? By focusing on your own self, you are making a key difference. So I'm very influenced by the work of David Hawkins, and you'll hear more about that, so you'll understand who he is if you don't know already. And his belief was, it doesn't matter what you do. You can go into a room, like go to your apartment, go to your house, never come out, but work on you, and you're making a huge contribution to the world. Now that's interesting, isn't it? There's a diagram in several of the books I've seen where the person's like that, and it shows that they are holding up so many people below them. So that's why, and below meaning vibrationally below, no one's better than the other, but it's about the vibration. So that's why if you go in your house, in your apartment, by yourself, never come out, you're living in an area that you're impacting, you are helping the world. So this is the influence of David Hawkins. Definitely a game changer for me when I really stepped into the work. This is not Monroe, this is Allyn Evans talking about the influence. I will bring in Monroe because that is a tool that I have used over the years. So his main contribution was to help us tell the truth from falsehood without us just having to perceive it ourselves. Is this true? Is this false? Well, I think it's true, but I don't know. So how do we measure? What was he doing? He created a logarithmic scale that measures levels of consciousness or vibration. So it's an arbitrary means to evaluate and gain meaning, and that's what's so wonderful about the map of consciousness. It gives us a way to measure, to interpret, and to apply it to our own life, our own situation. Now, he used this scale a lot. He had this really huge, successful psychiatry clinic, and he watched as people were being evaluated and their places they were hanging out, meaning frequency-wise, were being measured. What did that mean? And his takeaway was that these predominant attitudes, thoughts, feelings, and situations were associated with different levels of consciousness. So that's why for us, self-evolution is a good thing, because we are stepping into states, vibrational levels, that make life easier. Not easy, nothing's easy, right? And again, that goes for how a person experiences their lives. I can look at the same situation. All of us on this front row can look at the same situation. It unfolds, and we all are impacted differently. based on the view we have, based on the lens that we are looking at the situation. One of us might be afraid. One of us might go, everything's okay. That's supposed to happen. I know it's weird. I know it's ugly, but it's okay. You know, so we all can look at situations unfolding differently. And the more that we can step into these above truth states, again, it's not necessarily that life is easier. It's just that you trust, you believe that it's okay. So again, two people, two different interpretations. So life happens to me, that's really low level living. But when I can take it by me, I make life happen, I'm getting into responsibility. I'm getting into courage. And I'm going to tell you a story a little bit about when I went through my divorce and how I work through this chart here. And then life through me, that's surrender. Everything is okay. This is okay. I hate it. It sure is ugly. Can I change their minds? You know, the reactions people have. But I surrender. It's okay. So you're going to those higher levels. And then finally, life is me. And that's where we're reaching that oneness, that connection to source. So let's delve in a little bit more to the map of consciousness and what this means. You have 17 levels, and you probably bounce between 3 to 4 of those levels in your daily life. So that's good, right? You have a little flexibility. You can dip below, and again, I'm going to show you the full map, the full chart in just a minute. When situational things happen, and again, I'll tell you about my divorce. And whoa, that went down. And then states ascend. So you're ascending from pits of hell or to enlightenment, right? So that's the whole idea. And surprising, I'm going to talk a little bit more about anger in a little bit. Anger, even though it's in that negative part of the chart, it is closer to truth, and it is if you're expressing anger well, it's a powerful emotion because it can, jumpstart you into those different levels and level of integrity. So here's our map. So look at the scale in the middle here. So the idea is that we vibrationally range from 0 to 1,000. Some of our reptiles calibrate like at 50 and 75. The avatars, Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, they were 700 to 1,000. The higher level ones were 1,000. This is where you're reaching truth. So at 200, that's a pretty good place to be if you're at 200. And then, of course, and we're not going to strive to raise our vibration. We're just going to be doing things that help us raise our vibration. And I love this chart. I pull it out all the time because I can see where I'm hanging out just by the descriptors. So I'll go back to the divorce. There's this long story that I'll make kind of short. So I was going right along, doing all my work, my meditation, my dream work, all the things that I was doing to be a better human being, trying to say nice things, be nice, tell the truth. And at some point, I realized that I was no longer stepping in the same, let's just say, stride with my ex-husband. I just realized I needed to make some changes there. Well, my external world, meaning the people who were looking through the windows and saw this beautiful little house, they were shocked. So I dropped a bomb by disrupting this nice little family, and it was very hard. So it didn't take me long to drop into shame, guilt, apathy, grief, the very low levels. I had been hanging out, I would estimate between 250, 350. And all of a sudden, I'm at the bottom of this chart, and I'm trying to survive. And I remember, and I'm not joking, or I'm not exaggerating, I cried, I sobbed for 7 months after this. And I would look in the mirror, and I would see these, I called them dead eyes, and I would just pray, just please help me get the sparkle back, the light back, because the light was dead. And I kept working on this. I knew about this map of consciousness, but also during this time I had been given another David Hawkins book called Letting Go. So I slowly worked my way out of the depths of hell. And one day, and I did this by just little things, singing to myself, affirmations, doing what we call at Monroe patterning, living most of my life in the future. I don't recommend it when life is going well, but there are times future living can pull you out of the situation. So I did that. And then one day I woke up and I was like, hey, I'm encouraged. I'm bootstrapping it. I know I'm going to make it. I know things are going to be okay. So I was encouraged. And I stayed encouraged for a good while because I had to fix my finances. I had to, I was a stay-at-home mom. So I had to figure out how to bring in the money and do all that. And then I just kept, moving on up. And it's something that you can work with. Believe me, probably all of us in this room will go down to those lower levels again for whatever reason. But you're hanging out in a range of 3 typically. And just help yourself get back up to where that was. And some of this might help you today to do that if that needs to happen again, if you need to have that information. So interestingly enough, the world population, now this was at the death of David Hawkins, was calibrating around 204. So that's just right above truth. And until 1987, when the harmonic conversion happened, we were below 200. So when you're below 200, that's likely leading us to not a good space or place as humans. So the goal here is we want to stay above 200, and 204 is not that close to 200. It's not like, oops, we have one person kill somebody, and oops, there we go. It's a little bit more room for bad things to happen. But the idea is that if we are over this 200, we're going to be okay. As a world population, we're going to be okay. So that's why these efforts of 1% are so important, because it's helping us even move to a different direction there. So 85% of the world's population is below 200, and only 5% attain a level of 500 or higher. So that's really interesting. And courage, this is where our biggest shift happens. And I'm going to take an educated guess that all of you in here are at least at courage, at 200. And the reason I say that is because that's where we start being curious and wanting to evolve and grow. And at least from my perspective and just everything I've read and experienced, living life in those lower levels is painful. And it's the desire and understanding and inner growth that help us move into better spaces. And one level's not better. Somewhat a calibration of 5 is not better than 200. It's just how we're looking at life. And I was on a panel yesterday, the Sound Healing panel, and one of the speakers said something very interesting, and that was, we talk about 5th dimension and 3rd dimension, 2D, and it's really about all dimension. We're all in this dimension. It's just where we are looking at it from, where the lens. So as we can climb this map of consciousness, then we are stepping into those different dimensions. So it's not about getting somewhere out there. And remind yourself that today where you are is perfect. Okay? Everything you've done, good or bad, whether you have guilt about some of your decisions and choices, it's all good. This is where we start today. So where are you hanging out? So again, you can use a scale. The Letting Go book that I mentioned, it has, each chapter is a different level, so it can really give you insight into the different levels if you're wanting to, try to use that to grow. And just another view, you can Google these. There are a lot of authors have worked with these maps before and can help you delve more deeply into it. So just Google Map of Consciousness, David Hawkins. So the idea is don't try to reach a higher level than where you are. Again, all you need is 200. And again, I'm going to say you guys are all there already. So let's just start from there. And it's not a goal ever. Never think of it as a goal. And at the end, I'll be telling you some tips about how to do this. So we're going to do something right now to raise our vibration. All you have to do is think of a person, animal, or object with fondness. So I'd like us all to close our eyes. Just pick one animal, person, object, your chair. Hey, it's holding you up. And send the thought of love, affection, and just sit there a little bit. Okay, so you just raised your vibration and theirs. Unfortunately, the opposite has the opposite effect. And this is where, this is the hard part of this, okay? You have more responsibility once you become more aware of things like this. So how many of you yelled at people on the way here in traffic? That's something we all do. So just try to take it back. Be aware. Take those things back. We all say things about people we shouldn't say. Take it back as soon as you go, oops, that's not what I should have been saying. And there's 7 keys: physical, mental, emotional, intuition, higher self, spiritual divinity, and adding the X factor. And Monroe would be one of the ways to get those X factors. So your physical self, doing what we can do to help our physical body. So I'm not saying that there are rules about what the expectation is for you to do. That's up to you. But it would just be looking at, when I make choices about what I'm doing, it's conscious, it's not habitual, and it's keeping in mind that this is my temple. But it's not about rules. It's not about should I eat this, not eat this, drink this, not drink that, exercise today or not. It's just being aware of your physical body, taking care of your physical body. I have an Aura ring. I don't know if y'all are familiar with. It's just one of those devices that helps me take care of my physical body because I'm looking at how I sleep, my stress. So I recommend things like that. Think about this every time, and again, awareness, awareness, awareness. Every time you catch yourself doing something like that, say, I thank you, I love you, this is where we are today. We can do something else tomorrow, but this is where we are today. I remember I was reading a book, I want to say it wasn't Anne Lamott. It was a book about a lady who struggled with body consciousness, alcoholism, and she had a vision at one point, passed out on the floor, and saw herself kicking and screaming at her own body, lying on the floor. And so that's always stuck with me because I've been pretty ugly to her too. And it goes a long way to just remind yourself, hey, I love you. Hey, I've given you a lot of crap. Yeah. And look at you. You're doing pretty good. You're hanging in there. So another one is your mental self. Now, this is a concept I learned from David Hawkins. And over time, when I first read it, I got it. I was like, oh, okay. But now I really get it. And it's the idea that the mind calibrates around the 400s. Okay? The body is neutral. It calibrates at 200, just like the earth. The body and earth are not doing anything. They don't have an impact. They're not causing anything. They're neutral. So what we're doing with our mind to the body is the initiator. Now think about that. There's research that shows that you can, in your mind, go through a strengthening workout, not move a muscle, just sit here, imagine yourself going through a routine, and there's more than one, but I'm just going to pull out one study that I'm aware of. And the control group, as you might expect, nothing happens or they lose muscle mass. The ones that actually did the routine with weights, they had an increase of about 50-something%. The ones that did it in their head, 25%. Now that's significant. Another thing to think about, which blew my mind and really made this message come home to me, was the multiple personality studies. One body, 3, 5 personalities. When each personality steps in, that one body has a different hand dominance, different allergies, different conditions, arthritis, no arthritis, diabetic, no diabetic. So, wow. And so the mind is God to the body. You really can take control of things with your body, with the mind, and you can heal yourself. So again, it's very powerful. And that also is important for raising our vibration, managing our vibrational frequency, what we're telling ourselves, what you focus. You know, that's what's so interesting to me. All this stuff about manifesting, it's really about focus. I think there's 2 parts. It's vibrationally, where am I? Am I matching what I'm wanting? And 2, it's a focused attention. That's just, I'm locked in, that's where I'm going. Or this or something better, right? Because you don't always imagine the best outcome. Another one is your emotional self. Now, this is also, so the underlying thing about all of this is awareness. I have to be aware of what I'm thinking, or I don't have to. It would help to be aware of what I'm thinking. It would be a help to understand what I'm feeling so that I can self-correct. And emotions are our frequency gauge. They tell us where we are vibrationally. Just like when I was in the throes of guilt and shame, apathy, grief, I was feeling every bit of that. I didn't take an antidepressant. I felt it. And it didn't feel good, but it didn't defeat me. And some people it defeats at, different stages of their lives. But that's, it's okay to feel those things. And I've had people say, well, what if I feel guilty? Is that dragging me down? And it's like, no, you're hanging out in these levels here, and something happened situationally that plummets you down there. That's not where you're staying. It's just you're having that emotion, rightly so. If there was a choice or action you made that put you there. So again, they're guideposts. So just if you can start being aware, how many times have you had a feeling or an emotion and you're like, I don't know where this came from. What is this? Why do I feel this way? Well, the more you look into it, the better at it you'll become. Figuring it out. What's the source? So that I can address it and alter it. So why is this intuition thing important? It gets us in tune with our internal compass. I do believe that we come in here with with agreements, like to help us live our best life, have our best lessons, evolve the most in the circumstances we can. And I think it's set up that way. So I do believe we have free will, but I also believe we've made some agreements before we get here. And then our intuition are those little reminders, something whispering going, you need to quit your job. And then you go, no, I can't afford it. What would I do? And then it says again, you need to quit your job. And then you go, no, just stop. So you just stop. and you keep doing what you're doing. And then you get another opportunity a little bit later, and then you get another. And sometimes it's taken care of for you. So that's where you might question free will. But yeah, so be paying attention to these things. I was very naive when I first started this journey that I was one of those people that was so tapped in to my intuitive guidance that my world would never blow up. I would never have anything happen. It would be like turtle. I'd be a little turtle, and I would I'd hear something, and I'd go, okay, I'll do that. Then I'll do that a little bit longer, and then another message. Well, you see where this is going. It didn't just, and this is back to the divorce, didn't just blow up my marriage, which I dropped that bomb, but every part of my life, including family that was just so furious and upset with me, that it blew up everything. So I don't really know what messages I missed in my turtle approach. But anyway, the more open you are, I think you can move forward in a direction that supports why you're here, what you're here to do. So your higher self, this is, at Monroe, we talk about it as the total self. So it's just the entire being of you connected to Source, or has that connection. I believe it's the one that made the contract for me. I believe it's the one that can see, I call it the higher perspective. So it's like if you're on a boat, the crow's nest. My higher self, total self, is in the crow's nest. I'm steering the ship. I don't want to always be in the crow's nest, right? I might hit that, well, I don't know what, I just don't want to be up there always. I want to be living out my life. But if I can be connected to the crow's nest, I don't hit the iceberg, right? Because I'm getting the bigger picture. I think it's our connection to our soul. Again, the contracts and agreements. And I think it's through our higher self that we find highest potential. And, it's comforting to me, and you don't necessarily have to buy into my beliefs. Well, you do, but no. But I find, because you look at the world, you look at people, and you go, wow, they had such an awful experience that they had to go through. And then I was over here, mine wasn't like that, wasn't to that extent. Why is that so? And if you buy into what David Hawkins has said in his books and videos, it's because we're set up, again, to have the experiences that help us with our soul evolution to the best and highest good for our soul. And number 6, your spiritual divinity. So again, the connection to Source. I think the more you practice this, which you can do through meditation, dream analysis, the better and more connected you will be. And I have to tell you a story about the mind mirror. Have y'all ever been exposed to a mind mirror device? Mark, did you have it? You did, okay. So my first mind mirror, it's an EEG system, and then they have this software that looks at your brainwave patterns. And I had been meditating, doing using the sound technology for at least a decade. I knew things had shifted just by the way my view of life. I knew the research said that my corpus callosum had thickened and that my gray matter was thicker. But I'd never been measured or looked at beyond that. So the monitor, there was a mind mirror monitor that hooked me up. Another person who happened to be a board of directors was also hooked up, and we were going to go through this meditation. There was no sound science, but it was music and verbal guidance. So I'm sitting there. Here's my confession. I am freaking out a little bit because I'm a trainer. I've been a trainer at the Monroe Institute for 10 years, or probably by the 8 years, and I'm not going to do well. And if I don't do well on this test, what's going to happen? Who will find out? So I'm doing that in my head. And then She hooks us up. It's a 20-minute little session. The lights are on. I'm sitting in chairs kind of like you guys, so it's not like I'm in a meditation stance or relax at all. And the lights are on. People are doing like what they're doing here, in and out, walking. And so I'm trying to follow this music and the guidance. And the whole time I'm going, nothing. My back hurts. I mean, I feel like that's what I did the whole time. So at the end of it, she says, okay, let's talk about this. So Frank goes first. He was the other one. And he says, whoa, when we were walking that path you told us to walk, all of a sudden I looked over to the side and there was an angel. And then on this side, there was this golden light, came down, shimmered, hovered, gave me a message. And I'm going, I'm literally doing this in my chair, So then she comes to me and she goes, well, Allyn, what was your experience like? Nah, not much happened. And she kept going, okay, all right, come on. There had to be something. No. I didn't get anything. So then she said, well, what about when I had you walking down the path and the door opened? And I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is how it goes at the Monroe Institute regularly. Y'all, those of you who've been there know this. People go, nothing happened. We keep asking you questions. Something happened. So that was my case. And I was like, oh, you know what? That was when I felt a wave, like this embrace of unconditional love. I felt connected to Source. I just knew everything was okay. All right? It was a little passing moment, but it happened. So then she goes, well, you know what? That's the evolved mind state. And you held it for 30% of the session. And that's where channeling and those kind of things start happening. So my point is, you don't always realize when you're hitting these high marks in these spaces. Now I call it bells and whistles. So the angel, the glimmering light, bells and whistles. Spoon bending, bells and whistles. It's about the deeper connection to Source. That's really our mission here. And that's why the spirituality factor is so important, because that's what this is really all about. Again, we have free will, but sometimes we don't believe it. And our meditation, the meditations that we have are one way to get there, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. And finally, number 7, your X factor. That is developing your own two-way communication. So I've already given you a hint about what you can do about the body if you want to get into that. But you can talk to other parts of your body, too. Like, you can go to organs. Just like when I did that session, I actually had another Reiki session where a lady came in, she had a tic, like just a nervous tic, but she should have. Her husband was having a heart transplant or on the waiting list. She was under tremendous stressor, and her central nervous system was just wired. So I'm working with her on the table, and all of a sudden I hear this chorus of shrill voices. And they go, woo, we love you, we love you, woo. And I'm like, what is that? And that dawned on me, it's their central nervous system. Just so happy they're getting Reiki. But you can do this too. You can use the sound technology, or the sound technology helps. You don't have to have it. You can actually step away from it once you open this portal. But it's a way to get you there and hold you there. So it enables us to connect with our past, future selves. And I have a beautiful story about that. One of our trainers had an experience as a young man. He was a young father. He was really struggling. He had not had a good role model as a father, so he really didn't know how to do it and how to be that, but he knew he had the desire to be better than how he had been raised. So he was doing a meditation, and then he opened his eyes and he saw this light, this golden light. Just joking. He saw something appear before him, And it was, he couldn't really make out the face or what it was, but it was something giving him information about what to do. So he heard, it was a two-way communication. So he followed it, actually. He said it meant a whole lot to him, and it helped him redirect his life in the direction that he was intending to go or desiring. Years later, he's at the Monroe Institute. He's a participant. He has a meditation, and it takes him back to that scene. And guess who it was that gave him the message? His own, his future self came in. So you can really tap in to these experiences and advice and knowledge that future self had lived and saw that he could do it, saw how he did it. And I love this one because it really does help you understand you are not alone. If we can tap into that and hold it, which again the technology can help you do, you don't just believe it, you know it. And that's what's really important. All right, so we all have them. How do we access them? And how do we turn them on? And I'm going to briefly, because a lot of you probably already know this, but I just wanted to give additional information, and it's based on how it happened for me. But I think anytime you get information, you can pick and choose the parts that resonate with you to take you in that direction, and to access those non-physical helpers and other resources. And I'll tell you, one of the things I loved about my Reiki practice in Mississippi, I did it at a place that taught psychic and mediumship, psychic development, mediumship. So my classes were full of psychics and mediums. So I would be getting all this information about all that was happening that I couldn't see, or the other participants couldn't see. And it would be such fun confirmation because we might feel it, believe it. I always believe that my helpers and deceased loved ones that are watching out for me join when we're having these moments. But they could actually sense it, whether it was seeing it or perceiving it on a level that a lot of us couldn't. So what type of experience can you have with purpose? You can enhance your intuitive abilities. I'm a living testament of that. I went from not being able to do anything. Came in as an empath, was about it. And I now can stand up and get information that helps people with my eyes open. And it took a while, but it can be done. And I'm not a psychic. I'm not going to be able to give you a reading, but I can get bits and pieces of information. You can access your own guidance, and again, just act it out. Like if my body says I want a butterfinger, give it a butterfinger. If I'm being guided to share something with someone, do something, take an action, do it, and see, does that resonate with you? Does it make you believe you're on track? The way you'll really figure this out is journaling, because you can go back and read, and you'll realize, wow, that was a little piece of the puzzle, but I kept taking the forward motion, and I finally got there to where I'm supposed to be. And then also, you can get, like I don't think I've told this in public. I want to do it now. When I first started going to the Monroe Institute, I would hear in my meditations that there was a lot I could do to help the Monroe Institute. And I would just laugh. Like, what can I do? I'm a stay-at-home mom. What do I have to offer? But I would go in my journal, okay, I'm going to write this down. This feels crazy, but I'm going to write this down. So I kept writing it down every time I would hear it. It was almost every meditation. So a year later, I totally forgot about that. Didn't remember that happening at all. And I'm sitting down reading my journal. And I read that. And during that year, I showed up after my gateway to the Monroe Institute to help launch what we call the local chapter network at the time. And Mark Crusen's running our current division in the back. Can I wave your hand? So I was the chair of that by the time I read this. And I literally almost fell off my stool. Because I was like, oh, I guess they did need me. But, at the time I got the message, my thought was, well, everybody wants to, thinks they want to be at the Monroe Institute. And I'm just one of, another person. So just pay attention, but journaling can really help you. So lucid dreaming, OBEs, you can actually decide you want to. How many of you have had a lucid dream? Okay. How many would like to have a lucid dream that hasn't? Okay, so you can make that a goal, because it's something you would need to work on if it hadn't happened spontaneously. Read some books about it. Luigi Scambriella is a trainer for us. You can find articles where he's giving you information or videos about steps to take to help you do it. And I did that for a while too, because I hadn't had one spontaneously. Focused on it, had a few, it was fun. Now I don't focus on it anymore. I've done it. Same with OBEs. You can do it. Same with bending a spoon. You can do it. Same with remote viewing. Here's my thought about remote viewing. I did it. I got a first place, which means you nailed it. I'm never doing it again. I'm going out on the top. because it is something that you have to keep. At least Joe McMonigal, remote viewer 001, who teaches at the Institute, he says it's something you have to keep working at if you're going to keep it sharp. So I'm one and done. So yes, you can step, because you're still thinking, no, I can't do this. How can I perceive in the way that she's talking about? I'm never going to hear anything. Well, you might not. That might not be how you perceive. There are a lot of different ways to perceive, whether it's visually, whether it's I just know, whether it's kinesthetically, where it's getting information from your body. There are a lot of different ways to do this. But I want to share with you a story about Candy Sanderson. And Candy has been going to the Institute for a long time. And about her 10th program, I think, she attended Lifeline, this course that we do. And it's in one of the exercises, she is doing a soul retrieval, is what we called it. And she's interacting with someone who is no longer living, who's needing help moving to another area. So she gets a download, his name, his company, his occupation, when he died. So as soon as the meditation's over, she Googles it, and there was really a person. So she had all this confirmation. So I'm not sure if it was a few weeks later or months later, but that opened some door that has not closed since. And now she channels. And this book, she's got 2 of them now, very positive. So it's not scary channel. It's gives you hope. But again, you can open these channels and doors. She had never had any psychic ability before. So it is about 2-way communication. And we just happen to have this sound technology that's been around for 50 years. So we're not afraid of it. It hasn't caused anybody any problems, and it's actually helped a lot of people. So it's a frequency following response as best we can tell. Over the years, we've changed our mind about that. Now we're back in that school of thought. But we really don't know. But that's the idea, that we play a frequency, or 2 frequencies, and I'll show you a graphic in just a minute. But we play one frequency in one ear and one in the other. The difference is where the brain can be led to hang out. Now, we're very complex in our recipes. So we don't just say, we've got a recipe that's taking you to beta, we've got a recipe that's taking you to delta, unless we are doing sleep, something specific. Mainly it's combination, a little bit of delta, a little bit of alpha, a little bit of beta. One of our focus levels, which is what Bob called these different levels we work in, is mind awake, body asleep. So if your mind is awake, what do you think we have a pretty good bit of in our recipe? Beta, awake. If our body's asleep, what is there a pretty good bit of? Delta, because we're asleep. You can literally, yes? I would say REM is more theta. Delta would be where you're deep sleep. So your body, really feels like it's going to sleep, asleep. And the way that if you really get into this, so focus 10 you can feel on different levels. You can have a light focus 10, a medium focus 10, or a deep focus 10. The deep focus 10, you're in there meditating, you hear somebody snoring, and you're like, I didn't know anybody was in the bed with me. And it's you. Your body is asleep. Your mind is awake. And I actually fool my ring when I go to deep focus 10. It says I'm sleeping. So your body literally is asleep. In 2011, we had Skip Atwater, who was the president at the time. He introduced spatial ankle modulation. So when Bob Monroe first started, he started with binaural beats. That's one modulation. We introduced a second one, and now we're playing with more modulations than that. And what we've discovered is with these modulations, we can actually help you reach gamma. Now, before, with binaural beats, you can still reach gamma because it's not containing you from an experience, but it's not taking you to gamma. So with the new Monroe Sound Science, you can hit gamma, which is creativity, which is a focus. Like they did some studies on Olympic athletes. So when it's the skier and the target thing that they do. So you ski to a location, you stop, then you get set, you shoot a target. They had the EEGs on them, and so you think about that, you're going as fast as you can to get to that place, then you stop. So that meant they had to drop down into a gamma state, or drop up, right? And to hit the target and get settled. They did it within seconds. So we normally aren't doing that, but they're trained to do that. And that's so they could really focus, hyper-focus, lock in. That's what gamma can do for you, creativity. And then if you're in a meditation and have gamma, it also can lead to some very enlightening experiences, and you solving the question, the big question, or getting the formula to the catalytic converter, things like that. And it is the fastest way to the end goal. There was a monk that came in the 1990s. It was written about in the Wall Street Journal. He was from Canada, and so he's there at Gateway. And at the end of it, he goes, "You Americans, y'all always figure out the shortcut." And then he loaded up, as the story goes, it was tapes at the time, and took them all back to his monastery to help his fellow monks not have to work so hard, right? It's disciplined. And the Menninger Foundation did some research probably like 30 years ago, and they showed that their results indicated that very few people could hold these deep meditative states, whole brain states, for very long. The sound technology, as long as it's playing and as long as you're engaged with it, can do that for you without 25 to 30 years of sitting. And when I did the mind mirror, when I had that test, again, I'm sitting in the hardback chair, lights are on, I dropped to a theta state in less than 30 seconds. So this is very powerful stuff, and it's training. I don't have to have it now. Something else that was a good side effect for me, for those of us who tend to be stressed, this work removes the intensity of that stress. And the way I know it, I have a story about that. I was in Oklahoma living, and there was one day in May, there were 30 tornadoes in the state. Yeah. One just happened to be right over my house. So I'm listening to the radio. Well, no, first of all, I grab, as you do, for those of you who've never lived in Tornado Alley, what you do is you grab some pillows, you grab your people, your dogs, your child, and the radio, so you can hear what's happening, battery operated, and you go into the interior room. My house at the time had one interior room. It was a half bath. So we're all squeezed in there, 3 dogs, daughter, and me. And I had turned the radio, and all of a sudden the guy on the radio says, "It is over across street of blank and blank." Well, guess where that was? Right over me. And it was like, okay, this is either going to touchdown, take me out, or it's going to leave. And then I realized, I am so calm. Like, it's okay. And I really was. And it moved on. It hit like a mile away. Not too long later, after that, I had surgery. And this particular surgeon, when I walked in, they had the table, the tools that were going to cut me open, all that right there. And I had to look at it while they were taking my pulse. The nurse goes, "I have never had a pulse so low from someone who's about to get surgery." She kept checking it. And I had listened to pre-surgical meditations to get ready. So it has a side benefit with that as well. Just improves life. Meditation, to me, and at least in my journey, was the key to unlocking all of these happenings for me. And if you decide Monroe would be a good place to do it, I think that's the fast track, because you're there with a group of people, the energy is heightened, but you can also do the slow way, which is fine. They both work. And that would be at home with the Expand app or with just downloads, and have intention and purpose to lead yourself, where you're wanting to go at the time. Back to how do we raise our vibe without it being a goal? 700, right, was enlightenment on that scale. I have no desire to be enlightened. Just telling you right now. And the reason is, when you get there, at least this is what the books say, you don't want to be here anymore. You have to fight really hard not to go, not to disengage. You don't care what you eat. You don't care where you're sitting. So I don't really want to do that. I want to really live. Bob Monroe called it Earth Life System. So I want to be that lucky human, because a lot of people want to do this, guys. I'm that lucky human who's getting to do that. So 500, that'll be enough. So how do we raise our vibe? It's so simple. It's not a goal. Just do these things. Really, let others go ahead of you in traffic, on the sidewalk. Just stop. And if you're one of those people that just has to pop people the bird as you're driving, just start saying, that person might have an emergency. Make up something that helps you be okay with it. Help the individuals who you find crossing your path. This was key to me, because those of us who are into service, we want to help everybody, right? We see something on TV, we see a cause, we can't help everybody. Yes, I want to help the kids in Ukraine, but that's not mine to do. And if it was mine to do, it would be showing up in my life front and center. So the way I look at it is, okay, who's in my path? And when I recognize someone's in my path, then I'll do everything I can to help. And then that helps remove that guilt, because you can't help everybody. And feeding animals, birds, that'll do it. That's probably the easiest one to do, right? Especially the winter. Except you guys don't really need to do that, right? Who live here. In Virginia, we need to do that. So accelerating your consciousness journey. There are other ways to do this, to pay attention. The synchronicities are the funnest part. When I first started working at Monroe, we would make an intention for something to happen. And Paul, you've witnessed this as you've been with us last year. And I wouldn't even have to go make it happen. Things would just line up. People would walk in. Pay attention. And the more you pay attention, the more they come. Be thankful. And I'm curious. This is like an aside. I'm curious. Has there always been these synchronicities and I just didn't see them? Or is it because I'm here and I'm connected somehow, so they're showing up? I really think it's the first one I said. I think they've always been there. But the more you pay attention, the more you step into the flow. So I would definitely let that be one of your takeaways today. Present moment living. I know I said I had that, if you're, really going through trouble, live in the future all you need to, because that's going to help you pull out of it. I remember a dear friend of mine who happened to be a psychic. She said, think of it as being in a car. You're driving let's say you're driving from Virginia to LA. So your destination is LA. But along the way, you see a cow pasture. See all these cows. You're looking out the window. You're not staying there. Like, your destination is LA. So your present moment might be with the cows. So you just don't focus on that. That's what I'm saying. It could be very helpful to not live in the present moment. However, I would say 80% of the time, let's try to do that. Because that's the beauty of life. That's us really experiencing this life system on Earth. Your vibration state will be attracting what you're attracting. I think that's more of the key for manifesting, bringing things in. And now for the rest of that Albert Einstein quote. Match the frequency of reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. That is not philosophy. It is physics. So ask yourself these questions. Do you expect that all your needs will be met? Do you trust that it is unfolding as it needs to? Even if it looks messy, scary, painful? We need to experience all the emotions. I know, I'm sorry, I had to tell you that. We need to cry. We need to be sad. We need to be angry. Because that's us us experiencing this Earth life system to its fullest. I want every one of you, when you go on to the next, wherever you go, to get a high five that you did it well. Just keep that in mind. And I don't mean judgmental well. I mean live, feel, experience. And it doesn't have to be what the cultural norms think. Just live. What else can you do? You can experience it for yourself. So I've stood up here and told you stories about my experiences. But guess what? Every one of you can do it. Every one of you. And some of you already have. So just open that your mind up to that possibility. And whatever you do, trust your soul. The end.